You're watching a special edition of Jumpstart India. My guests today are the poster boys of New India, the best known faces in the Indian startup ecosystem, India's youngest self-made billionaires. They run the number 1, 2 and 3 most valuable startups in our country. Their achievements invoke admiration, awe and envy in varying measure, and they are coming together for the first time ever. Please join me in welcoming to this Jumpstart conversation Vijay Shekhar Sharma, Founder and Chief Executive Officer, PayTM; Ritesh Agarwal, Founder and CEO of Oyo Hotels and Homes; and Byju Raveendran, Founder of the EdTech firm Byju's. Welcome, it's nice to do a Jab We Met of a completely different kind. How have you been, Vijay?
Well, I can't complain much. We all are alive and kicking. I think that is the blessing. This is the time where being alive and kicking and every near and dear being safe is to be celebrated.
Ritesh, alive and kicking or alive and being kicked?
Yes.
As good as you can be in these times. So alive and kicking, but definitely trying to avoid being kicked.
You know, the one guy who is kicking is Byju, because this has turned out to be a bit of a demo moment for him. Byju, do you feel Diwali's come early this year?
Happy to be of positive relevance during this period. Yeah, but that has reduced all our sleep times. So.
Okay, so what I want to do in this conversation in the beginning is to focus on how you're dealing with the challenges of the lockdown. Then we'll come to what can be done to convert the crisis into an opportunity. So let's start with Ritesh Agarwal, because Oyo is the one company and hospitality is the one sector that's attracted maximum attention, and it's literally dukaan band at this moment for the entire hospitality sector and not just Oyo. So that really puts a lot of pressure on you. You had serious headwinds going into this lockdown, and now you're really having to deal with a very, very tough situation. Ritesh, give us a sense of how bad it's been and what you're doing about it.
Sure. Look, I think I always say that the travel and the hospitality industry is one of the most affected here. I'd probably imagine that within travel, the only other industry that is most impacted is probably aviation, because nobody's going to be excited to hop onto a plane as much, very similar to people not being excited about getting on a holiday now. So clearly, we are one of the most impacted sectors during these times of COVID. I do believe that it was the right decision to make the lockdown sooner rather than later, because that has ensured that the cases really did get flattish, until a few days back. Initially, in March, second week or so, we saw that the impact was roughly 10 to 15% on our global revenues. But I think over time, the impact has expanded to over 50 to 60%. And we believe may get worse. And India specifically, like you said, is dukaan band. We are of course seeing some green shoots in China, Northern Europe, and so on. But that said, India is our home market, and at this point of time, there is a very limited business here. The second thing is, as we saw the size of revenue drop, our immediate response was to try and cut all the controllable costs like marketing, capital expenditures, and so on. And at the end, when we realized that that was not enough, I think we made the view that we would keep away from any kind of layoffs. But unfortunately, we had to announce some furloughs a couple of weeks back. I think as a follow-up to it, the second thing that was critical for us was to do right by our customers and our communities. So globally, we have opened free room nights for health workers, ensuring that we work with state and national and global, across countries. Vice President Pence talked about how Oyo has enabled free nights for all the American health workers, and similar in so many other parts of the world. And last but not the least, at this point of time, our focus is how do we ensure that as the world opens up, we provide one of the most safe experiences for customers who would like to travel in the coming times, and do right by our employees, customers, and partners to the best of efforts that we can. So that's in summary how we've seen the impact of COVID so far on our business.
So while you've been hit hard by this virus, the one sector which has seen a massive hockey stick-like jump just over the lockdown period is the online education sector. And Byju, you've made a lot of your content available free. How's that been? We're dealing with furloughs, and we're dealing with layoffs, and we're dealing with growth strategies being curtailed at Oyo's. Is it completely the opposite for you at Byju's?
Yeah, there are some sectors. I'll say a few sectors which are positively impacted. So obviously the focus has to be on acceleration, and with, as per the UNESCO report, almost 1.5 billion students are forced to stay at home, and online learning is their only option for the time being. So we made our learning app free for this period, and more importantly, we also started free scheduled classes to replicate regularity of school sessions. What we saw is an immediate 3x increase in the number of users, which continue to grow over the last few days, few weeks. 6 million new students came onto the platform. Overall, we crossed 50 million students on the free platform. And more than all these things, students are spending a lot more time on the application. Previously, they used to log in 2-3 times a week. Now it's almost like every day is like a Sunday. To some extent, and instead of almost 1.5 hours, 2 hours, they're spending on days when they log in. And we are seeing big behavioral shifts in terms of students obviously love this format, these movie-like videos, game-like interactions. Spending time on a screen is almost a primary habit. But what we have seen is parents, because of the kind of forced homeschooling which is doing today, they are accepting this new format more than ever before. Students are realizing how good this can be rather than just reading from a book, and teachers are getting better prepared to use these online learning tools.
Okay.
So though I'll just finish by telling, though the technology in education has been there for years, because of the current crisis, almost everyone is getting introduced to the benefits of this. And what has not happened in years is going to happen in a matter of months. And online learning is actually becoming a part of it, integral part of mainstream education. This is not a replacement or substitution. It's a good complement.
Vijay, the last time there was a black swan moment, it helped you. That was demonetization. Suddenly, out of the blue, your plans got a big fill up. Now, from what I'm reading, digital payments are down. If transactions are down, business is down. Naturally, people are transacting less on your platforms and elsewhere. So, how badly off are you? Somewhere less hit than Ritesh, but not quite as happy as Byju?
Oh, well, to be honest about it, I think there is always a happy moment for an entrepreneur. So I'm actually happier than before, because two things happen in these days. Number one, even though the offline shops did not open up, but our online payment just grew through the roof. Total month on month, if I was to say, in a decline month, we had only 3% decline in number of users. So effectively, you're talking about other categories taking off so very well that it was amazing for us. And one extra feature that took off in these days is contactless ordering. Now, people are interested in placing orders or using phone for transactions, as you can call, lot more. So we basically deepen our relationship with our customer, and we built more use cases, and we got advantage of this. So I would not say that it was any business-wise or user-wise decline as a significant or impactful, but I would say that there is a huge amount of acknowledgement of digital payments and contactless ordering, which is a big plus for the industry.
I love how Vijay is always smiling. He should have a big frown on his face. That's because Mukesh Bhai and Mark Zuckerberg have come together. Now Facebook through WhatsApp is building its digital payments gateway. And if I were you and now I had to deal with the combined might of all of Jio and all of Zuckerberg and Facebook, that's a big franchise you're up against, partner.
Oh, well, Rahul, I'm going to say, बड़े-बड़े चेहरों में अपने चेहरे की पहचान. What else you want in life? That you're placing me in these big titles and then you're placing me in that bucket. I mean, I think as far as life has to be considered, I think, oh my God, I wouldn't have ever believed that in the same sentence I could have been quoted for some work. So incredible for that reason. At the same point of time, the market requires huge amount of investment. I mean, standalone PayTM is committing 10,000 crores for this year, next year, and year after, which is, even though it is huge, but it is not ample enough for digitization. So I would say the market having more the people, the more the merrier, and then when the network effect come in, then every player and everyone goes together winning. So I think
but we know that you're well funded, and that's great. But these people have, relatively speaking, unlimited treasure chests to hit you with. You already were dealing with Google Pay. Now you've got, and WhatsApp has immense penetration. You know, that bade chehre is good, but they could just like, you could be the ant that they could toss aside, and is that something that worries you?
So one of the funny things that happens in this ecosystem is that, first of all, it is not a zero-sum game. It's like saying when Facebook took off in the world, Google did not lose its revenue or profit or network effect. People became more and more online. In other words, you can always say this, that when more players come and the more use cases come, the customers become more savvy with the platform. There is no winner take all going to be possible in this country. So I'm very happy. We anyways have always said that we have ambition of 500 million Indians. So if somebody has 600 million ambition, that person is inevitably going to be bigger than us. At the same point of time, we are very clear for the customers, the 500 million Indian, we will be the platform of preference and platform of choice, and that is what our business is. And now, as you can understand, that we have moved ahead of the business quadrant from being a payment player to a financial services player. Our bank, lending, and insurance and wealth, these solutions have started taking money. So second thing I wanted to tell you in these days is that we got a lucky, I would say, situation where our losses, which were very high 2 years back and high last year, right now are nearly minimum. I mean, we are very happy with the net losses every month that we are making. We will be, if we are continuing at this scale, we'll be very happy because we could announce our break even much before than we had thought earlier. So in other words, when the market goes like this, there is always a blessing out there.
Do you have a fixed month when you think that operationally you could be break even? Vijay? You know, speaking of losses, Ritesh, your firm registered losses of 335 billion in the last year. You were hoping to grow so fast that you'd become the #1 hospitality company in the world ahead of the Marriott Group. And now you've got the virus that's infected the world. Has this led to a significant scaling down of ambition? Or are you still following that Vijay credo of play big or go home?
Sure. Look, I think first off, you're right. Last financial year, we announced losses of around 335 crores. But what's important is for the last 3 years in a row, we have seen our net losses as a percentage of revenues improve by more than half for our Indian business. So there has been a clear path to improvement. But of course, I think the coronavirus, has 1 or 2 quarters or few quarters of effect in that path. We are cognizant of it. But that said, the whole reason why we've been able to grow so quickly is not just because of our aspiration. Our aspirations have been primarily because of the great response we received from our customers across the world. And our view is, to the extent we can transform our hotels from traditional hotels to Suraksha hotels, focus on the kind of new consumer bases who will look for accommodations in the future, right from weekend travel destinations which are driving holidays rather than airline holidays. Same country, I believe that Coorg will be the new Switzerland, or Kannur will be the new Switzerland, and Goa will be the new Thailand. As if we are able to predict those trends, we believe that even though the overall market size may shrink a little bit in travel, but we believe we have a good set of opportunity to use our underlying business model and our brand proposition to our customers to be
my question was this, that you had a plan of about 1 lakh hotel rooms in the United States. You wanted to be #1 in China, you wanted to be #1 in India, and very ambitious target in terms of expanding the size of your bouquet. Are you cutting back on that?
So, of course, I think we will have a more measured business aspiration going forward. But that said, I think at this point of time, it's very hard to predict your growth plan until the world comes back. So I think at this point of time, we are reviewing and evolving our business plan as times go. But if I were to take a long-term view, which I have always, I think in the long term, we remain confident about creating a large-scale business. And last but not the least, I think in times like these is when people look back home. I think due to that, we will focus on some of the key strategic geographies of OYO, like India, Southeast Asia, China, Europe, and United States, and probably deprioritize some of the other geographies. Not to say we will not invest there, but we will focus on investing significantly more capital in our core markets, is my view.
Now, Byju's key to your operational success is a very aggressive sales team that goes out, makes face-to-face calls, tries to turn leads into sales. Now, a lot of that obviously hasn't happened during the lockdown. So you've increased the number of people who are sampling your product. Are you hoping that when the lockdown ends and when these restrictions are over, you'll be able to turn a lot of those experimental users into fixed users of the Byju product? Or could they just go back to class and say, okay, well, thank you, we tried you, and then now we go back to what we're used to?
Yeah, if you think from, so we had to change two aspects of our business model. One, sales moving from offline to online sales, because everyone is getting used to the new normal of virtual meetings like this. So lot more efficient, because you can do many more meetings than in-person meetings, whether it's for sales or whether it's for anything else. So that's been a big positive change. So we're back to pre-crisis numbers in terms of revenue, expected to like literally double in the next 2 months. Reason being, there's a large set of users, students who are trying out, parents who are actually seeing that their kids love spending time on screens and here benefiting from it. So it's been though the crisis is unfortunate, but for the sector it's an inflection point. And when we look back 4-5 years down the line, we're going to realize that this is one of those moments which even the stakeholders who were very hesitant in trying out the online model, and for those, especially those core sectors like education and healthcare, I think this is the time where the technology making an impact, technology getting used as an enabler for these sectors to become more effective. So it's not going to go back to, if you ask me, nothing will go back the way it was before. Like the education is not going to be 100% offline. It'll neither be 100% online. It'll settle in somewhere in between, and we'll reap benefits of that. So
the one thing I found
lot more,
very interesting,
lot more investor interest over the last few weeks than ever before. That kind of shows and at times where no investment is happening in most of the other sectors.
The one thing that struck me as we ran promotions suggesting that Vijay, Shekhar, Sharma, Ritesh, Agarwal and Byju, Raveendran were coming together is the kind of blowback from the big boys of India Inc. You call them poster boys, they told me. They are just lucky. They've been fooling their investors. They got lucky. Now you watch what happens with the virus. Ab inko maza aayega. For too long they've been floating in the air. Vijay, do you pick up a lot of that not just in the way that you've grown and the easy way that you carry yourself, there's a lot of people who are hugely envious and waiting for you to trip over?
I think I don't think I have any comment to make on other people trying to think that there is a imminent death or you're going to die immediately in few seconds or so on. So I live in a world where I'm happy to be here, and I believe that there is a responsibility, and I'm very, very sure, I'm 100% sure that we will do much better than what is expected out of us from shareholders, from stakeholders like customers, and I think that's what matters. If our success or our benchmark of what we should do was defined by somebody who was not happy with us, I don't think that I was ever in that battle or war ever. So I'm happy with what people say or not say.
But will this lead to a real change in the way that you've been able to run your business so far? In any case, because of what happened with WeWork, Masayoshi Son and the others at SoftBank were getting far more careful, and we got two of Masa's boys with us, generating a lot of envy. But people say, that he was way too lenient, and that this is not, those times are now over. So Masa's boys now need to brace up.
Rahul, I'm going to say one thing. I'm going to say one thing. We as a company, first of all, we are blessed to have shareholders like Masa-san, and I'm sure that Ritesh also acknowledges that. I mean, I'm a fan of Masa, by the way, as a pure engineer who never studied what the business is all about. There is a respect of curiosity and incredible amount of innovation that Masa drives around himself. So first of all, that is for Masa. And as far as the company is concerned, we've raised money from incredible financial investors in the world based on what we've achieved, done, and what opportunity lies in front of us. So I think till the time period, the supporters who are going to give the money for the business are understanding the business model, and we are delivering on what is expected. We are fine.
You know, the WeWork example, Ritesh, is that an albatross you carry around your neck? Because ever since WeWork went under, globally, and given the high profile splash you made in the United States and elsewhere, you're under the scanner, and there's so many obituaries have already been written that Ritesh and Oyo is going to be the next WeWork. Does that irritate you? Does that make you want to fight back harder?
Look, I think there is one thing, if you go back to the discussion we had at Jab We Met, or even behind, the one thing I've always taken a lot of conviction towards is saying that perseverance is one of those things that defines our company more than anything else. Some of you, Vijay has known, of course, me for a long while now. This is probably the fourth time where people are trying to write an obituary. So I feel that, like Vijay said, I think my responsibility is primarily towards my customers, my partners, and our broader stakeholders around us. To the extent we can keep executing in that direction, I think we are in a good place.
No, but I just want to tell our viewers, I'm sure a lot of people know, but I don't know if everyone does, so I'll just repeat it. What Ritesh Agarwal did when the last round of funds were raised is that he borrowed to invest his own money into Oyo to raise his stake from 10% to 30%. He now has $450 million of debt which he needs to return, which basically means, I mean, who does that? Who borrows money to increase his own stake? Usually the way you play it is you grow big, you make a killing, then you buy a fancy pad, and then you kind of, you figure out what to do. You don't borrow money. Byju did that very early on in his company, but you've done it when the stakes were much higher to borrow money, and now that's an extra debt burden you carry on your shoulders.
Sure. Look, I think like you were saying earlier, we are believers in our business in the long term. I don't know if it is the smartest financial decision I have made, but I do believe that it is one of the best decisions I feel good about as an entrepreneur and an operator, because I'm backing my company and the team members I work with for the long-term success. So I'm confident that it's the right thing to do. But that said, only time will say how financially correct that was. At this point of time, I believe that we have a fantastic opportunity coming forward. There are real headwinds that exist, but to the extent we are careful and we are driving in a direction where we focus on delivering our customers the right kind of experiences, I believe that this would be the right decision I made in retrospect.
Vijay, do you advise Ritesh? I know your credo is go big or go home. You could say, "Itni bhi kya jaldi hai ghar jaane ki bhai, let's try and go big, but do it nicely."
No, I think one of the things that I talk about Ritesh, and I also include Byju in that here, that the age is on their side. I mean, this is like a tennis playership, and I think then we become fine golf player over the age. So right now there is a huge amount of opportunity for Ritesh. So whatever he does till the time period, there is. I mean, while he's taken the debt, but he's taken the debt with partners and shareholders together, everyone. So it was risky shot, but I'm on Ritesh's side. I mean, he should have.
Speaking of tennis, Byju's actually plays tennis. And how's Byju, your tennis coming along? Byju is, by the way, a fantastic athlete. Okay, so he plays table tennis. He's like really big time into all kinds of sports. Byju, how's your tennis coming along?
Like I always figure out time to somehow figure out time to spend outdoors, whether it's playing games or doing some activities. So that's more of a routine, and fortunately I've been able to do that because.
Okay, so what I want to do is I just want to get both of you. If you were strategic advisors to Ritesh right now, and he's now dealing with the kind of headwinds that he is, what advice would you be giving him? Who do I start with? Okay, Vijay knows him more closely and has known him for longer, so I'll start with Vijay. How would you be suggesting to Ritesh for him to maneuver his way through these troubled times?
The cash is the king. The money in the bank is the best asset that you can carry. Just don't let it spend. Stop at any possible place you can stop spending it.
But that's completely contrary to everything Ritesh does. He likes to spend big.
Now, this is not the time to spend big. This is the time to preserve big. That's the statement.
And look at who's speaking. Somebody who likes to have front page ads across newspapers saying, spend less. Byju, what advice would you be giving Ritesh?
Yeah, for me, it's just that it was a sunny day till a few months back. Suddenly the conditions are overcast. So just keep your wickets and wait for the easy overs to come.
Do you like any of this advice, or you're saying, don't give me gyan, let me do my own thing, Ritesh?
No, no. Look, I think both of them are fantastic, leaders in the industry, and I'm very inspired by how both of them have built their businesses. I think their advices are very similar to their industries. Vijay is saying, I'm in the business of cash, so cash bachao. And Byju's a big sports fan, and he's saying, regardless of what happens in the short term, see through the overcast conditions. When
Rahul,
it's sunny, you can play the big shots again. So I love both the advice, and I'm genuinely thankful to be a part of an ecosystem where through the good and the tough times, I think people have genuinely been supporters in the long terms of our success. Which is, of course, sent me WhatsApp messages all through to keep this going. So I'm very thankful for Vijay, Byju, and the broader community who's been with us all through these times.
Vijay, you have a cricketing analogy to add? Yeah, go on.
I want to tell you one thing. Ritesh is the most mature, youngest entrepreneur of this country. I mean, he's incredible in his words. I have never seen I'd say any age entrepreneur, younger or older, to be sounding this mature. He's so incredible. I'm a big fan of these statements. You could see how he well described this advice itself.
He has all his points. He's now been working with American communications as well, so he's come all prepared. Tuck, tuck, tuck. This is what I want to say, and this is how I want to play it. Okay, I'm going to take a very quick break. I hope you're enjoying this conversation because, boy, I am, most certainly. And when we come back, we'll shift just out of the companies these young men run to the larger startup ecosystem. Because remember, these are relatively mature startups. Many said, can you even call them startups any longer? But when you go further up the runway, there are companies which were in the process of generating funds. A lot of those fundraising efforts now rendered completely asunder. What advice do they have for the larger startup ecosystem? As I said, like them or not, envy them or love them, these are the three poster boys of the Indian startup system, and you're watching Jumpstart India. I'll come back with part 2 of this conversation on the other side of a very quick break. Stay with us. System Vijay, Shekhar, Sharma of PayTM, Ritesh, Agarwal of Oyos, and Byju, Raveendran of Byju's with me on this jumpstart conversation. It's been fabulous so far, and I'm looking forward to part 2 now. Remember, the Indian startup ecosystem is home to about 80,000 startups, small and big, which raised a cumulative of $10 billion in 2019. 30 of them are unicorns worth more than $1 billion. Now, this pandemic, which is hitting well-established companies hard, is hitting the newbies even harder, because raising money, which is crucial to staying on the runway, then becomes that much more complicated. So Vijay, I'll start with you. There are many who, when we said that we are getting all three of you together, said, but they still have some reserves. They can still, with the money they've been able to raise so far, last out this pandemic. What about us? Hamara kya hoga? We know we're in the process of trying to generate funds, and now suddenly we've been hit by this virus. It's beyond our control. We could choke. This could be the end of our dreams. What advice do you have for them?
I think there is no secret about it that the tough time inspire you to do different things which are extraordinary in terms of resources or not resources. I want to share a fact that if you wanted a quick success by throwing money on the problem, maybe those days are not these days. Meaning you are not supposed to get a lot of money easily now for about a year's time period, I'd say. Now, if you really want to solve a problem creatively, lesser resources, maybe the opportunity will become even bigger for you because you in early days would solve it with much less resources. So I understand this is painful that you do not have the same amount of money as somebody else started, but there is right now, everybody is in the same bucket. So you have a great opportunity. I believe that you should be doing your own true test, whether you really want to do what you want to do. And if you really are into it, then go for it. Hang on to it. And then I'm sure some days later, you'll find out that less money was a blessing in later days.
Ritesh Agarwal, the tech media is full of deals that have now fallen through, venture capitalists who no longer come on the phone, private equity that doesn't want to complete deals which were in the pipeline. If you were behind in the cycle of evolution and dealing with similar circumstances, what advice would you be giving those who want to follow in your footsteps?
So look, I think to begin with, I believe crisis is a time of building great companies. Some of the best companies across generations have been built in times like this. Oyo was built after the 2009 crisis, and similar for various successful companies, as I would imagine. My belief is three things. To begin with, be closer to your customers and ask them for ideas. You'd be surprised how amazingly they can support you. Back in the day when I was, just 4 or 5 hotel old, there was a big money due that came by. And we reached out to our customers. It was amazing that customers were willing to pre-buy room nights to help us with cash. So every kind of opportunity comes by if you reach out to your customers and employees for ideas. Second, like Vijay said, cash is king. So please try to conserve as much of cash as you can. And last but not the least, use technology in every manner possible. Remember, 80,000 startups may not everybody is a tech startup. But so people who are not using technology, use technology to make sure that you can continue serving your customers and deliver your products to them without having to require physical manners of reaching to them. So these are some very high level summary suggestions that I can provide. But like some of your peers from the Indian Inc. said, we have a lot of proving to do. So I will know more as we see through this crisis myself.
The high level summary suggestions. Vijay, you were spot on. He sounds like you're in a class at the Harvard Business School and there's some case study being taught by a professor. एकदम वैसे ही बोलता है नहीं
Rahul, you were in Harvard some days back.
I'm telling you, he's sounding like one of our professors.
I was not in Harvard.
Rahul और मेरी मुलाकात भी.
He's sounding like a professor.
Because he knows exactly what's going on at Harvard.
So okay, so now you can't drag me. Okay, this is my opportunity, my platform to take a day. You don't come back at me.
नहीं मैं तो आपको कह रहा हूँ कि मैं तो आपसे सीख रहा हूँ राहुल.
Okay. Byju, your suggestion to these young startups desperately seeking to raise money at a very vulnerable stage in their evolution, what would you be telling them?
Yeah, I think it's not just about young startups. Most of the startups, where those who are going through a rough patch, which are because of things which are not in our control. Now, like people say that whether it's pandemic or no pandemic, startups are all about doing things in an insurgent mode, right? So. But during a crisis like this, it becomes it's of paramount importance to take stock of the situation very regularly you should forget about your annual plans. There's no point in like having even a monthly plan. Weekly plan or daily plan is actually the order of the day. Now, for most of these startups, it's about survival and not about long-term strategy. I might sound preachy, but this is what we practice, or this is what all of us have gone through, like multiple stages, multiple pivots. We were 100% offline 4 years back. So this is second nature to startups. That's why I always feel that during a crisis like this, good startups will always adapt faster because young workforce, aspirational workforce. So, and normally startups launched during downturn, and I'm talking about new startups, they tend to be far more durable and resilient than those who start during a better economic state. So it's like if you think of like I've read somewhere that after the last financial crisis of 2008 2009 now. Immediately, like more than now, in the immediate years, more than 50 unicorns were created globally. So there will be enough opportunities for new ideas because every crisis, there are so many challenges. That means you have a lot of new problems to be solved. So enough opportunities for new ideas. And it's just that it's important to keep in mind that you find a problem which you truly care about so that when you hit multiple roadblocks, you don't take no for an answer.
Let's spend a moment trying to deal with how we can turn this crisis into an opportunity and what business in the post-pandemic world is going to be looking like. And we've seen, Ritesh, very high-level strategy insights from the likes of Yuval Harari, Ruchir Sharma of Morgan Stanley, and I want to see what our startup kings have to say in terms of how business changes and how this crisis can be used as an opportunity. So let's start with Vijay. What's your sense of how you, your sector, and the larger ecosystem can turn this crisis into an opportunity?
Okay, everything that is an internet economy, whether getting in the queue for your food order, grocery order, shopping, or anywhere that was physically in touch, the world is going virtual. So this is an arrival of virtual, digital, mobile, whatever you want to put the world in mainstream. I believe this crisis in world will make technology-led businesses, the mainstream businesses, right now they are looked at as a separate bucket called big tech or a tech business. Now soon, it won't be considered that you're a technology business, meaning you are a technology bucket. You will be part of the mainstream of every business. And I do not mean it only for the commerce or payment or financial services, or let's say in a leisure, I would believe that the arrival of technology-led businesses have become final right now.
So we're heading to the virtual economy era. That's your sense, and every business is then digital and it accelerates the trend. What's your sense, Ritesh Agarwal, about running a successful hospitality chain in the post-pandemic era when my first concern is I don't want to travel. I definitely don't want to be in a flight where somebody could be sneezing around me, and therefore you're talking about Goa, but I'm happier staying in Delhi because at least here I'm safe.
Absolutely. Look, I think in this new world, there are 2 to 3 things that would happen. As Vijay was also saying, technology will be the order of the day. हमारे industry में in hospitality for a long time, we've avoided using technology for check-ins, for housekeeping and so on. But in this new world, zero touch will be the order of the day. Second, like you said, you're happier in Delhi because you don't want to get on a flight to Goa, travel around, in a car with a few other people and so on, which is why I believe that if at all people take vacations, they will get closer to the cities. I believe people will seek God more. Pilgrimages will actually increase, and hence it will be critical that when any of those things do happen, making sure that technology ensures higher amount of social distancing, making sure that in this period of time, people are focused on high quality of hygiene and sanitization. Some of our peers like Hilton just came out with a Lysol partnership for saying that how they're trying to make sure that they evolve into being a high quality, safe experience. We believe that's going to be the order of the day, beyond technology being the anchor of most things. The third is, I believe there are specific examples of how technology will play a role beyond, just ease of social distancing. Even information asymmetry will reduce. People will ask questions of saying that, why can't we just video conference it? For example, I couldn't have imagined a Zoom call with you on India Today anytime in the back. Clearly, you've completely changed your ecosystem to be prepared for this world. I believe this is something that will be natural for most companies going forward.
Byju's, now we know how your business in online learning per se is growing, but there are people who saw you the last time you came on India Today for a conversation on the future of education who said, but what about social learning, being in a class? You know, Byju's doesn't teach me that. I want to have my child with a bunch of peers. They learn so much just by interacting with each other, and we don't want them spending so much time on the screen. They could turn out to be tech zombies.
Yeah, so as I was mentioning that because of this crisis, on the other side of the crisis, I don't expect it to completely go back offline, neither to completely stay online, right? So as we have discussed last time, it's going to be some format of blended learning, which combines the best of both online and offline, and that will be the new normal. Now, there are a few things which I've read, like the feedback which we got for the screen-based learning, right? And things which normally people don't notice. When you learn from a personal screen like this, now if you see the screen, all four of us are on the same screen. Now, for students, it's for every student, it's almost like they have a front row seat. And if you get the format right, which can hold on to their attention, and if you engage them, it's very easy to make it effective because you can have the best of the teachers delivering lessons supported by mentors who can actually give in-person feedback. Now, in-person doesn't mean that they need to be in the same room, right? But you can always give personalized feedback, and that's where I expect the future of learning, future of education to go. Like some master trainers, where you have an option of learning from the best of the trainers, and a long tail of tutors, those who can help with personal feedback. But as you mentioned, while these online programs excel at teaching hard skills like math and science, which the soft skills, especially, like if you ask me, the one skill which I want all of us to have is empathy. You can't learn that through screen. So technology can help, but having people on your side will always be an advantage. So that's why I was talking about hopefully an innovative blended format combining the best of both offline and online will evolve, which will be far more efficient and impactful.
Okay, now I'd ask people to send us questions, so I'll take some of the questions that came in to us. Prem Makhija asks, and I'll take his question, and this is for Vijay. What's PayTM's strategy to deal with Jio, Facebook, Google Pay, Phone Pay? You said it's good to be in the same league as the big boys, but he seems concerned about whether PayTM will, on a serious note, be able to deal with the combined might of Mukesh Ambani and Mark Zuckerberg.
Well, I don't think that I need to say that I will be able to fight better or less. I would say that more the merrier. When the ecosystem becomes bigger, it is not a zero sum. I mean, it just continues to. You are underestimating the size of digital payment financial services business in this country. Anyways, the PayTM has expanded itself from payments to a financial services company, and I'm very happy being called a financial services company led by payments. So we don't have to dominate and win the payment war to become a large financial services company in this country. So first of all, that is not the battle that we are fighting, number one. Number two, at the same point of time, these all companies came. And
so you're saying beating Mukesh Ambani is not your dream? You don't want to be number one and Ambani and Zuckerberg together number two. That's not you. You're giving up already.
I don't think that I need to fight that war, because I think we are here to build financial inclusion as an ambition, and that I think is an ambition that is play along with everyone. So it is not even an obligation to say there is an obligation of beating someone. So I think my war is sorted.
Smart, very smart. You know, that's a smart way of looking at it. Sarthak Sahani asks, and this is a very important question. I'll put it to Byju's because there's a growing distrust towards China. The government is making move to keep Chinese investments out. A lot of the funding that came in over the last couple of years came in from Chinese venture capital, Chinese private equity. How do you see that being impacted? Because if we are building walls, then that naturally makes it tougher for China to want to come in. I don't even know whether they'll want to come in as much, or even if they want to come in, for us to be able to raise funding from them. Byju's? Okay, Ritesh, do you want to answer that? One of the problems with the Zoom call is it's entirely dependent on what kind of broadband we have and it goes. But hey, you're all doing the same thing, so just join in. Okay, Ritesh, tell us.
Rahul, आप तो हमें option दे थोड़ी रहे हैं. But look, I think that said, clearly one of the things that's going to happen is that capital providers across the world, will need to think about how to invest in companies. I think good companies will continue to raise capital regardless of where the source of capital is. You just saw that there was a big transaction by a US digital company in India. I think clearly over time, if companies are good, the pockets of capital will continue to be available across countries.
Byju, I now have your audio. I think you were telling us what you think should be done, because one major stream of funding coming into India could potentially be jeopardized.
Yeah, I think since we have strong fundamentals, we will continue attracting like good set of investors, not just from China, but all over the world. As you mentioned, last year, close to 11 billion flowed into Indian startups. And since this is one of the most exciting startup ecosystems and maturing fast, like VCs are seeing exits, there's a large dry powder just sitting idle. Like I've seen reports like growth stage P's, they have 500 billion of capital yet to be deployed. So though there's going to be a short-term funding window, on the other side of it, maybe 6 to 12 months down the line, maybe I'm a bit more optimistic here, you will see that investors from all over the world. And though there might be a challenge in terms of attracting some of the Chinese capital, I don't think good startups will ever have an issue attracting good investors, because the ecosystem is maturing really fast. You can see that in the last 2-3 years, a few $100 million, 6-7 years back, coming to its 11 billion just flowed into the Indian startups last year.
The last time I met with Vijay, Shekhar, Sharma was at the PayTM office. I don't know when a face-to-face meeting in a physical location will be possible. What he did is, he brought out a big music system from his room, put it in the middle of his office floor, turned on the music, and the entire PayTM team was dancing in the middle of the day. So that's something which wouldn't happen if you were to come to the India Today Mediaplex ever, or go to any well-established company. So, Vijay, what have you been doing when you're not trying to grapple with all the problems? What's the kind of music you're listening to? What are the kind of movies you're watching? And what are you going to sing for us just now?
So sing, I mean, that's like on a throat question. By the way, thank you so much for coming on that day. That video became another video that is very popular of mine. In other words, that I did not know so many people will recognize. Oh, you dance well or whatever. Well, I'd say that
that's what they told you, that you dance well.
I would say that from a size, body, weight perspective, that I would have not been the person who should have been even attempting that. So people were acknowledging that you are adventurous dancer.
Yes.
Well, right now I'm not watching movies. I'm more or less on office calls, Zoom calls like we are right now. And I'm listening a lot of music behind the scenes. So I've been discovering music, I'd say. So
what music are you discovering? Tell us more about it.
So I think Head Full of Dream by Coldplay is something that I simply love, the preamble and the way it plays out. And I think that is something which is my even deeper favorite than earlier it was.
Okay, whether it's Coldplay or something else, would you like to hum a few lines for us?
Well, I can play a background of it, and then I can play, if you don't mind hearing. Okay. I don't know whether you want to listen to me or not.
No, we want to listen to you. Go for it.
Go for it. Okay. 1, 2, 3. I've been singing along with Chris Martin.
Arey, gao na, you said you're adventurous. Now you're losing your streak of adventure. Go for it.
I can't sing. I'm not going to sing because it is not even making sense. Just looking at your face and playing the music at the back, you're more like humming, and you guys must be laughing right now. I can't even see your faces. So
no, we're not laughing. One second, Ritesh, are you laughing? You're not laughing. We're taking this very seriously, and whether it's in Hindi or in English, we want to hear Vijay. Are you laughing, Ritesh?
Bilkul nahi.
I'm laughing at me by seeing my face on this Zoom call. And as for the viewers of India Today, I can tell you guys, there is a screen back on me. This is like a mirror I'm talking to. I don't see everyone, all of us together on a mosaic right now. So I don't even know what reactions everybody else is giving. So believe me, it is a nightmare. I don't know whether it is a film actor or people like you, Rahul, who would do this ever, that you have a mirror in front of you and speaking to that. This is the feeling like that.
Okay, you know what Byju does really well is that he raps. And some of those raps I don't have. Have you heard, Vijay, Byju's formula raps?
That is something amazing, because I think I'm a student. I was a class 12 student, which was topper in my school. So I would love that. I think Byju's rap is something which is original. And I love to
So you were a topper. Byju scored 100% in his common entrance test. How much did you get, Ritesh?
I barely passed.
100%.
But you're doing fine, don't worry, it's no stress. Yes.
No, I never went to university. So for me, I was always reasonably clear that I would never be as good a student as Byju or Vijay.
Okay, let's before we come to Ritesh, let's build it up.
Just kidding.
Let's listen to Byju's rap. Byju, go for it.
Yeah, it's like when you talk about rap, I was kind of innovating. How do I hold on to the attention of, because if you mention algebra, the first thing the word which will come to most of the students' mind is boring. So that kind of forced to innovate. Again, in the offline world, when I used to take sessions in large auditoriums and then later stadiums, the only way I could have hold on to the attention of a 13-year-old, 14-year-old was by innovating on content and just to get their attention. And this is not how I used to teach. I kind of used to convert every chapter into a 2-minute rap song. I'll just give you or let's say 10th standard algebra, and I'll just do it for 15 seconds so that the viewers are not getting bored, because at the end of the day, it's still math. Arithmetic progression, which is one of the initial chapters, will sound like this: a plus d, a plus n minus 1, which is in terms of n by 2 to first term slash m by 3 constant a plus d, a minus d, a plus d, 4 a minus d, a minus d, a plus d, a plus d. If you add all the d's, you can find out n find out d. Geometry progression, which is the second subtopic, will sound like this: a r, a r square, a r should be n term. Sum to n is a into r ratio n minus r minus 1 into 1 minus r ratio 1 minus based on r is less than 1. 3 constant g equals a by r, a r 4 equals a by r cube, a by r, a r f multiply r will get cancelled. You can find out n find out r. I can keep on going, but that's just to give you an idea. So I kind of suddenly we used to create a festive atmosphere, because when students expect a class, when they walk in, they'll see like 25,000 students. And this is how I used to kind of open. And slowly but surely, I used to kind of get them through the rigor of math by kind of, people say that chocolate covered broccoli. So that this is more like just to get their attention going. And so they know that, okay, this is not a normal teacher, and more of the attention, just to gain their attention. So the students will sit down and then.
Vijay, did you have a teacher who served you chocolate covered broccoli or rapped to you like this?
No, not at all. I mean, this is totally not the case. But I remember one thing. I remember my mom taught me in this Byju style that I can remember. When I was this is class 1, when I would be trying to memorize spellings of month. So my mom taught me spelling of September, like saying KCPT, SEPT, EMBAR. So that is why rap, or the memory of getting educated with a fun way. But this is the age of Byju's. You can very well see, Rahul.
Interesting. Now Ritesh सोच रहा है मैं क्या करूँगा, मैं भी फंसने वाला हूँ. Now what's my way out? Or how can I make this fun? Go for it, Ritesh. We know you play good basketball. Let's see whether you can rap or sing.
नहीं राहुल, मुझे लगा कि आप मुझे सही में you were gonna let me off because I was the relatively younger one. But you know, first off, I think
Ritesh, तेरे पास टैलेंट की कमी नहीं है दोस्त. तू अगर स्पीच देगा तो वो स्पीच भी वन ऑफ द बेस्ट ऑफ द कंट्रीज में चली जाएगी. तू स्पीच दे दे. लेकिन दिस इज नॉट द टाइम फॉर स्पीच, सो सम फन एक्टिविटी.
देखिए, Byju entertained us, and I think I really wish I was able to remember arithmetic progression this way. But like Vijay said, this is the age of Byju's. But I will share something that is probably more apt for these times. I have seen that, in the last few weeks or months, one of the things that I have seen is that we are, as team members, getting closer, as hotel industry getting closer, as startups, we are talking a lot more to each other. तो मुझे लगता है कि in the last couple of weeks, I believe one of the best crisis leaders our country had was स्वर्गीय अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी. तो उनका एक kavita I had written in one of my notepads. I'm trying to pull that out if I can read for you. Is that okay, Rahul?
Yeah, go for it, absolutely.
ठीक है. So it goes as under: बाधाएं आती हैं आए.
In fact, that reminds me, that is something that I can do because I love Hindi poems और मैं एक सुनाऊंगा थोड़ी देर बाद.
अच्छा चलो ठीक है. First Ritesh, go for it.
Perfect. So बाधाएं आती हैं आए, घिरे प्रलय की घोर घटाएं, पैरों के नीचे अंगारे, सिर पे बरसाएं यदि ज्वालाएं, निज हाथों में हंसते हंसते आग लगाकर जलना होगा, कदम मिलाकर चलना होगा, कदम मिलाकर चलना होगा.
Very nice. आग लगाकर जगना होगा. Very nice. That's nice. विजय, आप इरशाद कीजिए. Go for it.
ओके सो ये जयशंकर प्रसाद की पोइम है जो मेरे स्कूल में लिखी हुई थी और एज आई ग्रू अप आई अंडरस्टूड द मीनिंग ऑफ इट एंड आई स्टार्टेड टू एडमायर इवन मोर. जब मैंने फंडिंग मिली थी मेरे को तो मैंने ये पोइम अपने सोशल नेटवर्क पे भी पोस्ट करी थी. तो मेरी वन ऑफ द मोस्ट फेवरेट पोइम है और वो है परिश्रम करता हूँ अविराम, बनाता क्यारी और कुंज, सींचता द्रग जल से सा आनंद, खिलेगा कभी मल्लिका पुंज, ना कांटों की है कुछ परवाह, सजा रखता हूँ इन्हें सयत्न, कभी तो होगा इनमें फूल, सफल होगा कभी ये प्रयत्न, कभी मधुराका देख इसे करेगी इठलाता मधुहास, अचानक फूल खिल उठेंगे कुंज होगा मलयज आवास. This is basically an acknowledgement of the weight that we who create go through, that someday my hard work will be rewarded, someday I will be able to acknowledge, I mean, the world will be able to acknowledge the hard work that I did. So that kind of point.
You couldn't have found a more powerful way of ending this conversation, that let there be a day when the effort that you are making be acknowledged by the world at large. Vijay, Shekhar, Sharma, Ritesh, Agarwal and Byju, Raveendran, you've been absolutely fantastic. There are so many people who have their swords out for you. I say more power to your spirit of adventure, to your spirit of daring, to literally take on the big boys of the world and, God willing, come out on top at the end of this pandemic. For joining us on this broadcast and lighting up this edition of Jumpstart with your insights, your humor and your spirit of adventure. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. In fact, I'm certain that you did. So thank you for tuning in. I'll have more for you on the other side. Stay with us. Back in a moment. Kunal, क्या करें break?